Okay, this video is pages 13 through 16 in your midterm review packet. So here we go. Question 1 says that the lateral area of a cone is 72 pi and the diameter is 16. What is the slant height? So the first thing you do anytime you have a cone is you need to draw a cone. Very important. And draw in that right triangle that's in the middle here. Like so. Then they told us the diameter was 16, which means the radius is 8. They want us to find the slant height. They gave us the lateral area of the cone. So you need to go to your formula sheet and look up the lateral area formula for a cone. And it happens to be big L, which is lateral area, is pi r script L. And lateral area is 72 pi. That's pi times the radius, which is 8 times the slant height. So this formula becomes 72 pi equals 8 pi L divided by 8 pi. The pi's cancel, and you get the slant height is 9. And that's your answer. So you don't even need the picture because the lateral area formula for a cone has the slant height in it. Just as a side note, if I were asking you for the height or the regular height or the altitude, you would need the Pythagorean theorem. So be on the lookout for that on the midterm. Number 2 says, what is the measure of an interior angle of a regular octagon? An interior angle, or one interior angle of a regular polygon formula. Well, you take the sum formula, 180 times n minus 2. That's the sum of all the angles. And you divide by how many angles you have, which is n. So for an octagon, n equals 8. And so we have 180, 8 minus 2 divided by 8, which is 180 times 6 divided by 8, which comes out to 135. Whoops. Choice C. All right, number 3. It is so important to read. You have to read the givens. This is where people are messing it up. If BD is perpendicular to AC, you take this and you mark it off on the picture. Then it says, which of the following statements will allow the two triangles to be congruent by angle side angle? So far we have angles. Well, we don't have any more givens. We can look with our eyes for the reflexive property. So far we have angle, side. We want angles. So we want these two angles up here to keep it in the order of angle, side angle. So we want a given that will make this happen. So if we take a look at choice A, it says BD bisects angle ABC. Well, that's exactly what that would do. It would make angles for us at B. D being the midpoint of AC would not give us angles. It would give us sides. That would not work for angle, side angle. BD bisects AC would give us the same sides. And AB congruent to BC would not give us these angles, the angles at B. So choice A is the correct answer. Number 4, in triangle DEF, point G. So we're going to draw a triangle first. Triangle DEF. G is a point on DE, and H is a point on DF. And GH turns out to be parallel to EF. So what happens in this picture is you get two similar triangles. You get a little baby triangle and a bigger triangle. So GE was 4, GH was 6, and EF is 9. And they would like us to find the length of GD, so I'll put an X on it. In this type of problem, you need to set up a proportion. So I'm going to use the small triangle first, and I'm going to go left to right. You can do this in many ways, you just have to be consistent. So X over 6 equals, now I want to use the big triangle. This is where people mess this up. You need to form the side in the big triangle. So this blue side that I just kind of marked over is not X, and it's not 4. It's X, and it's not 4X, it's X plus 4. Think about it. If X was like 3, from D to E would be 7. It would be 3 plus 4, not 3 times 4. So this would be X plus 4 over 9. And now we cross multiply. We would get 9x equals 6x plus 24, remembering to distribute the 6 to both terms. Subtract 6x. We get 3x is 24. Divided by 3, x would be 8. So if x is 8, that is GD. That's what we call GD. So there's your answer. Number 5 says, actually number 5, let's not even worry about number 5. You could skip that question. That will not be on the midterm. Number 6, if x is prime, then x is divisible by 3. It says what value of x makes the statement false? And if then is false when it goes like this, it starts true and ends up false. It's the broken promise. You kept your end of the deal, but I didn't keep my end of the deal. So we're looking for, firstly, this first part has to be true. So if you take a look at part A, 8, or choice A, 8. 8 is not prime. So right off the bat, we're not beginning with something that's true, not the answer. 6 is not prime as well. So it doesn't even matter what's happening here after that. I need to start off with something that's true. So for example, 11. 11 is prime. And now you want to ask yourself, is 11 divisible by 3? Well, no, it's not. So now the promise is broken. You gave me a prime number that wasn't divisible by 3. That would be false. And 3 is prime, but 3 happens to be divisible by 3. So that comes out to, sorry, that equals true. So the answer is choice C. All right, number 7 is going to be tough for me to do on the board, but I'll do my best. In three-dimensional space, 2 planes are parallel. So I don't recommend drawing this, but I'm going to draw it just because that's what I have available to me at the moment. So here are 2 parallel planes, and they're intersected by a third plane. This is when I tell you to put your hands out straight and then have the third plane come in, a piece of paper. Okay, there's my third plane intersecting. It intersects both of the parallel planes. The intersection are these 2 parallel lines. So a pair of parallel lines is the answer. That's the best drawing I could do. I would suggest not drawing it. I would suggest doing it out in the air. Number 8 says, based on the diagram below, which statement is true? And they give you a bunch of parallel lines. So what you want to do is figure out all the angles. And if you remember, if the Foursquare game is the exact same game, then the lines are parallel. So let's see. 110 would give us 110 vertically, and 180 minus 110 would give us 70. So there's that situation. 60 vertical here, 180 minus 60, 120 for these guys. 115 here, and then 180 minus 115, 65 for these guys. And then 120 vertically, and 180 minus 120, 60 for these guys. So if you take a look, the 2 Foursquare, or the 2 box bowl games that match up are the ones hovering lines D and E with B as the transversal. So D is parallel to E. None of the other games match up, so none of the other lines are parallel. Number 9, you can skip. Number 10, it says, planes M and N are both perpendicular to line CD. I'm going to try to draw this, but again, this would be where you have your 2 hands out, and the line is going to be perpendicular to both planes. Okay? And so what happens to planes M and N? Well, planes M and N aren't perpendicular to each other. They're going to be parallel. They're going to be going in the same direction. All right, number 11. Again, you've seen the picture, but you have not read the questions carefully. So now we know BD is bisecting AC. So AC is getting cut into 2 equal pieces. It says, which of the following is true? Well, AD would be congruent to DC in that situation. That's definitely true. Choices B and C are out because we're not talking about angles, we're talking about sides here. And then this is actually a true answer. You would not have this on the midterm where you have 2 answers correct. If I said AD was 5, that means DC is 5, and that means AC would be like 10. So 2 times AD, 2 times 5, is AC, which is 10. So there are actually 2 correct answers for that. There's a typo in there in that question. Just fix it. All right, number 12. Whoops. If the length of 2 sides of a triangle are 12 and 23, which could not be the possible length of the third side? So here we go. If I have 12 and 23 and I make my third side 12, here are my sides now. If I take the 2 little guys and add them up, I get 24. That is greater or beats up the 23. That triangle works. We want the one that can't work, so that's not the answer. Now, if I had 27, my sides in order would be 12, 23, 27. Add up to 12 and 23, you get 35. 35 beats up the 27. That triangle works, not the answer. If I had 11 as my third side, my sides in order would be 11, 12, and 23. And 11 plus 12 is 23. That is equal to 23. That doesn't beat up 23, not greater than. So that triangle does not work. There's our answer. And just to be sure, we'll do 12, 19, and 23. 12 plus 19 is 31. That's bigger than 23. This triangle works, not our answer. Choice C is the final answer. Okay, 13, I have to change the question. There's a typo in it, which I realized after, of course, I photocopied it, which is so fantastic. In the pentagon, it says you have the measure of the interior angles. And it should say, what is the measure of an exterior angle, whoops, at E? So, first things first, we need to draw a pentagon. We have 4 different angles. So here's my pentagon, 5 sides. A, B, C, D, E. A is 80. B is 67. C is 128. D is 153. And they want an exterior angle at E. Now, we cannot use the exterior angle formula because it's not a regular pentagon, meaning not all the angles are the same. So we need to be careful. We need to come up with a different way to do this. What we have are 4 interior angles. So I'm going to add up those together. 80, 67, 128, 153. Forgive me, I don't have a calculator. So 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 3 is 18, carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 6 is 15, plus 2 is 17, plus 5 is 22. Carry the 2, 2, 3, 4, 428. Now, the sum of all the angles, the interior angles, is 180 times n minus 2, which for a pentagon would be 180 times 5 minus 2, which turns out to be 180 times 3, which is 540. So we're going to take these two numbers and subtract them. So 540 minus 428 turns out to be 112. That angle is 112. And that's one of the choices, but they're trying to trick you. They asked you for an exterior angle. So what has to happen here is, oh, look, the exterior angle is supplementary to the interior angle. So we want to do 180 minus 112, which is going to give us 68. That's the final answer, 68 degrees. All right, number 14 in right triangle ABC, it says the hypotenuse is 20 and one of the legs is 12. In fact, we have to draw this pretty accurately. So here's our triangle. The hypotenuse is 20, and the hypotenuse is AB. So I need my A up here, my B down there, and the right angle would have to be at C then. Leg BC is 12. They say which expression represents the relationship between the sides of the triangle? Well, I need to define AC, so I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem to do that. So here we go. I want to do it up here. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So let's see. 12 squared plus B squared is 20 squared. 144 plus B squared is 400. Subtracting over, we would get B squared equals 400 minus 144 is 256. Taking the square root, B would be 16. So if B is 16, now we're asking the sides in order. These are less than symbols. So if you think about what's happening here, if something's less than something else, that means we're starting off with the smallest and we're going to the largest. So the smallest would be BC. That's got to be less than the next guy, AC, which has got to be less than the 20, which is AB. So choice 4 or choice D is the answer. All right, some more. Number 15 says, if AB is congruent to BC, so we'll mark that off, and BD is an altitude, you have to know the word altitude, and altitude is going to make right angles right here. Now it says, how are the triangles congruent? Well, there's a few ways. First of all, we can look with our eyes at this point and see the reflexive property. So if I did the reflexive property, if I use the reflexive property, we would get, if you take a look, this spells SSA, but we have right triangles, so it's actually HL. Or, you could have done it a different way. you could have seen that we have a big isosceles triangle in this picture and said the base angles were congruent. So if you use the isosceles triangle idea, this would be AAS. So AAS or HL would both work. So the final answer is D, 2 and 3. So number 16 says if BD bisects angle ABC, which of the following may not be true? So if BD is bisecting the angle, we're going to get a swoosh here and a swoosh there. Those two angles are congruent. So I'm going to pick numbers for them. Let's say ABD was 20. That would make DBC 20. And that would make the big angle here 40. And that might help us with this. So we get angle ABC, which is 40. Is that equal to 2 times ABD, which is 20? Well, that's true. So that's not the answer we want, which is not true. Angle ABD, which is 20, is that half of angle ABC, which is 40? Well, half of 40 is 20, so that's true. Half of angle ABD, well, half of 20 is 10. Is that equal to angle ABC? Well, ABC is 40. That's not true. That's our answer. 2 times the angle CBD. CBD is 20. Does that equal ABC, which is 40? Yes, it does. So that's not true. That is true, not the answer. So the final answer is choice C. All right, number 17. All right, so we have the calculator up now. We're going to need it for this problem. It says a right circular cylinder has a volume of 1,000 cubic inches and a height of 8 inches. What is the radius of the cylinder to the nearest tenth of an inch? So we know the volume of a cylinder, we're going to need that formula, which comes from your formula sheet. It's big B times H. And B is the area of the base. Well, the base for a cylinder is a circle. So the area formula for a circle is pi r squared. So now we can plug in some stuff into here. We know the volume is 1,000. Notice it does not have a pi next to it. So I'm not going to put one in. I'm just going to write it as I see it. So I have 1,000 equals pi times r squared times the height, which is 8. So I have 1,000 equals 8 pi r squared. And now we need to solve algebraically for the radius. So first things first, we're going to divide out by 8 pi because it's being multiplied by r squared. That's how you undo multiplication. Now, to type this into the calculator, we have to be very careful. The calculator, on the old calculator, it's 1,000. This works for the new ones as well. Divided by parentheses 8 pi. Really important for a question like this. Whoops. You have to use parentheses because there are two things in the denominator. Two numbers in the denominator. So we get 39.788,73577. 7887, whoops, 3577. And now we take the square root of that. That's what undoes the squaring. So taking the square root of that number, whoops, sorry, should be second square root of, I'm just going to put the answer in. That's another way you can get around typing. Or you can just type the thing in. The square root of the answer is 6.307, blah, blah, blah. We want this to the nearest tenth. That would be 6.3 rounded to the nearest tenth. Easy question, but easy to mess up if you don't put parentheses around your 8 pi on the bottom. Okay, number 18, in the intersection of a plane and a line not in that plane. So here's my plane. A line not in that plane would stab it. And it would stab it at a single point. So think about when we did that with our hands, right? I would tell you put the line in between your fingers, and it would stab your hand at a point. 19, don't worry about it. 20, if AB intersects CD at E, and angle DEB is 3x minus 5, angle AED is 5x plus 1, and angle BEC is 2y plus 8, we want to find the value of y. Really good question. Well, we first want to set up an equation with just x's because you can't write an equation with x and y and then try to solve that for one of the letters. It's not going to work. So if you notice, these two angles, the red ones, the ones with x's, are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees. So we have 5x plus 1 plus 3x minus 5 equal to 180. So collecting like terms, we would get 8x minus 4 equals 180. Add 4 to both sides. We get 8x is 184. And divide by 8. And x would be, if we're dividing by 8, it would be 23. So if x is 23, notice that that's one of the choices. They're trying to trick you. Usually, when you get an x value, you have to ask yourself, did I answer the question? The question was to solve for y. Well, what's the relationship? I have this angle here and this angle here. They're vertical, so they're equal. So if I could now that I know the value of x, we could find out what angle AED is. So that would be 5 times 23 plus 1. 5 times 23 is 115 plus 1 is 116. Notice that is a choice. That's not what they asked for. They asked us to find the value of y. But we know angle BEC is equal to the 116. So now we know 2y plus 8 equals 116. Subtract 8. 2y equals 108. And divide by 2, and y is 54. That's a tough question, but if you can do that, it really should be choice D. If you can do that, you can do a lot of the questions on the midterm. 21. Two angles of a triangle measure 30 and 50. So here are our angles, 30 and 50. In order to answer this question, you need to find the third angle. Well, add up the two that we know, we get 80, and subtract from 180. This is where people forget. Subtract 80 from 180. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So 180 minus 80 is 100. So this angle is 100, which makes this triangle obtuse. Because we have one obtuse angle, one angle bigger than 90. All right, number 22. If BD is the perpendicular bisector of AC, there are two math words here. BD is perpendicular to AC. That means we have right angles at D. It is also the bisector of AC. So BD is a knife. It is cutting AC into two equal pieces. Then we want to figure how the triangles are congruent. So far we only have sides and angles, but we're allowed to use our eyes and see the reflexive property. So if we take a look here, side, angle, side works because the angle that's marked off is connecting the two sides that are marked off. So side, angle, side is the answer. It is not HL because we do not have the hypotenuses marked off. So just because we have right angles doesn't mean we have HL. All right, last but not least, number 23. The diagram below, AB is perpendicular to CD. This is all we know. It says which of the following must be true. ABC and ABD are right angles. That's true. Then it says CB is congruent to BD. Well, all we know is that the two lines are perpendicular. So the picture could be misleading. We could have really, given the fact that all we know is this, we could have the picture say this. And then clearly CB is not equal to BD. So please be careful. You're reading the givens. The only things you're allowed to see with your eyes are vertical angles and a shared side, a reflexive property. That's it. Everything else you cannot just make up as you go along. So B is not true, and therefore C would not be true, and D is not true. Choice A is the answer. And I believe that's it. Yep, that's it.